The man quietly slipped into the hospital and shut off the power to the treatment room. While the doctor was out making his rounds, he quickly stepped inside and locked the door behind him. Before the woman could even react, she was already trapped inside a sealed glass treatment chamber. The man didn't answer. He simply stuck an oxygen tube into a bag of pollen. As the oxygen kept pumping in, the pollen slowly filled the entire glass chamber. The man's name was Charlie, a senior engineer with the FBI, and the reason he kidnapped the woman in front of him was simple. He wanted the answer to one question: who killed his wife? But Gray, an experienced agent, didn't say a word. Instead, she kept mocking Charlie. Inside the chamber, Gray began struggling in pain. Charlie made her a deal: tell him who was behind it, and she'd get fresh air again. But as the pollen thickened, Gray's breathing became faster and more desperate. Through the glass door, Charlie could barely hear what she was saying anymore. But this was exactly what Gray wanted. The moment Charlie opened the chamber door, Gray suddenly attacked. The two of them clashed in a brutal fight. Gray seized the chance to run out of the hospital, and Charlie immediately chased after her. Gray sprinted down the street and ran straight into the middle of the road. Suddenly, a speeding car slammed into her and knocked her to the ground. By the time Charlie reached her, Gray had already stopped breathing. Panicking, Charlie quickly grabbed her phone and rushed away from the scene. Back at the hotel, Charlie was still shaken. He walked into the bathroom and took off the blood-stained clothes he was wearing. Staring at himself in the mirror, he slowly sank into deep thought. Just a few days earlier, Charlie had been nothing more than a regular engineer who showed up to work every day. That day, the moment he walked into the main office, he noticed something very unusual. His direct boss, Deputy Director Moore, was standing there waiting for him. The strange situation instantly made Charlie nervous. Someone at that level would never normally wait around for an ordinary employee.
Charlie, have you been tracking the news? I need you to come with me to the director's office.
With no choice, Charlie followed behind Moore. The two of them walked into the director's office together.
Director O'Brien, this is Charlie Heller.
Hi.
Hello, Charlie. Come have a seat.
I'd rather not.
Just when Charlie thought they had discovered some mistake he made at work, Director Brian delivered devastating news. Charlie's wife, Sarah, who had been attending an academic conference in London, had been kidnapped by criminals and tragically killed during the attack. The moment he heard the news, Charlie's mind went completely blank. He simply couldn't believe it. His wife, who had spoken with him on the phone just yesterday, was suddenly gone. It wasn't until he saw her name on the TV news.
One of the victims has been identified. She is a 13-year-old American.
At that moment, Charlie completely broke down. What made it even stranger was that the four attackers had seemingly vanished into thin air. London is a city with more than 400,000 surveillance cameras, yet not a single one had captured them. Moore gently patted Charlie on the shoulder. He assured him that the CIA was fully investigating the case.
Go home, Charlie. You need to take some time.
Charlie returned to an empty house. He still couldn't accept the fact that his wife was gone. The next day, the airport called. Sarah's body and personal belongings had been flown back from London. After arranging his wife's body, Charlie began going through the things she had left behind. That's when he discovered a birthday surprise Sarah had prepared for him. At that moment, Charlie couldn't hold back the tears anymore. No one knew how many days and nights had passed before Charlie slowly began to recover from the shock of losing his wife. And when he finally stood up again, only one thought remained in his mind. He would find the truth and avenge his wife. The next day, Charlie returned to the FBI. But this time, he was no longer just an engineer who buried himself in work. He began secretly investigating the truth behind his wife's murder. As a senior engineer, restoring surveillance footage wasn't difficult for him. Soon, Charlie pulled up every surveillance video from around the hotel on the day of the attack. What he saw in the footage slowly made his heart sink.
They only took Sarah because she tried to save someone else.
Holding back his emotions, Charlie replayed the criminal's words again and again. Eventually, through the footage, he successfully identified the four robbers. Charlie put together a full investigation report and handed it to Deputy Director Moore and the other supervisors right away. But to his surprise, after reading the report, everyone remained strangely calm.
I understand you want to see progress, Charlie. We think it would be good for you to see Dr. Garrison.
At that moment, Charlie finally understood. The FBI had known who the killers were all along. They simply chose to stand by and do nothing, letting the people who killed his wife keep walking free. A few days later, Charlie finally decided he had nothing left to lose. He hacked straight into the agency's internal system. Luckily, he quickly found a classified file that could threaten Deputy Director Moore. The file documented a mistaken bombing operation from 5 years ago that caused a massive tragedy, and in the bottom right corner of the authorization form was a familiar name, Deputy Director Moore. As a key technical specialist in the FBI, Charlie knew very well, accessing classified intelligence without permission was a serious crime. But at this point, he didn't care anymore. Charlie quickly copied the file and headed straight to the office. He threw the evidence of Moore covering up the bombing onto the table and threatened him to his face.
This is your cover-up.
It's only out of respect for your recent loss that I'm not throwing you out of this office.
Moore warned Charlie not to keep digging, but Charlie wasn't listening anymore. He had only one demand: professional training. If the FBI wouldn't get justice for his wife, then he'd take revenge himself.
I don't think you could beat a 90-year-old nun in an arm wrestling match.
Humor? I want mission-specific training and all the information the company has on these people.
Faced with Charlie's threat, Moore eventually gave in. He immediately contacted the instructor at the agent training base, Henderson. A few days later, Charlie arrived at the CIA training facility as promised. From that moment on, veteran instructor Henderson would personally train him. But as the days went by, Charlie's shooting skills were still terrible. Unless he was standing right in front of the target, he couldn't hit a thing. But soon, Henderson noticed something else. Charlie actually had an incredible talent for explosives.
I'll be damned. Looks like we finally found something you do well, Ellen.
In just a few days, Charlie's efficiency and precision in building explosives had already surpassed many experienced agents. Under Henderson's harsh training, Charlie also gradually learned survival and combat skills, but Charlie still couldn't bring himself to pull the trigger on a real person.
Come on, Charlie. Paralyzing, isn't it? You're just not a killer, Charlie.
No matter how much Henderson pushed him, Charlie just couldn't do it. Meanwhile, Moore sent people to search Charlie's house, but they found nothing that could hurt him. So he secretly gave Henderson an order: eliminate Charlie. However, when Henderson returned to Charlie's room, the room was already empty. Charlie had prepared for this long ago. He had taken a full set of fake identity documents. He had even bypassed the base's proud biometric security system. He had also secretly planted a satellite listening device in the folder he gave Moore earlier. At that very moment, Charlie was at the airport wearing headphones, quietly listening to their every move, until he realized he had been exposed. Charlie took off the headphones and casually tossed them into an airport trash can. Then he boarded a plane bound for Paris. At that moment, his revenge plan truly began. After arriving in Paris, Charlie set his first target, the most dangerous of the four, former Agent Gray. After several days of surveillance, he quickly confirmed the location of Gray's apartment. While Gray was out with friends, Charlie followed an online lockpicking tutorial and broke into her apartment. He photographed Gray's schedule with his phone and casually took the pistol from her drawer. Luckily, Charlie had already left before Gray returned. Back at the hotel, Charlie carefully studied the schedule. Soon, a simple way to deal with her formed in his mind. The next day, he went to a flower shop downstairs and bought a large number of flowers. A few days later, Charlie had collected an entire bag of pollen. Soon, the day came when Gray went to the hospital for treatment. But what Charlie didn't expect was, he only wanted to get the mastermind's identity from Gray, but he ended up indirectly killing her. After calming down, Charlie realized he couldn't stay there any longer. He immediately packed his bags. That same night, he took a bus out of Paris. Using information from Gray's phone, he eventually made his way to Marseille, France. That night, Charlie walked into a local bar, looking for his next target. Before he could find the target, he spotted a familiar figure on the dance floor, Henderson. Realizing he had been exposed, Charlie immediately turned and ran out of the bar. After a while, Charlie randomly walked into a small, inconspicuous bar on the roadside. He thought he had finally shaken the pursuit. But when Charlie walked out of the restroom, he saw Henderson sitting at the bar, quietly waiting for him.
Doesn't matter how smart you are. If you panic, that will always screw up a good plan.
Charlie smiled and complimented Henderson for being a great teacher. On the surface, he pretended he was willing to leave with him. But as the two stood facing each other, the timer on Charlie's phone hit 0. The next second, the restroom suddenly exploded. The bar instantly fell into chaos, and Charlie escaped in the confusion. Luckily, he quickly got in touch with the hacker friend he had been talking to online. The hacker not only helped him evade tracking, but also gave him a temporary safe place to hide. The next day, Charlie arrived in Istanbul. But what he didn't expect was that the hacker he had been talking to online was actually a young woman. Her name was Anna. After hearing Charlie's story, Anna decided to help him get his revenge. Because she had gone through something similar, She was already tired of living a life on the run, constantly hiding.
For that night, when they do,
Really think you're gonna fight off the Russians with that?
it's not for them, it's for me.
Soon, Anna tracked down the basic information on the remaining 3 men. One of the targets was named Blaze. That same night, Charlie and Anna arrived in Madrid, and Charlie had already figured out the best way to kill him. Ever since Blaze checked into a top 5-star hotel in the city, he had the hotel's famous glass sky pool all to himself almost every night. After getting the pool's structural blueprint, Charlie designed a precise electromagnetic pulse device. According to the plan, activating the device would weaken the tempered glass structure. Everything seemed like it would go smoothly, but just as Charlie finished installing the device and prepared to act, he noticed something. Someone in the bar downstairs was secretly watching him.
Charlie, you have to leave now.
No, we'll go as planned.
Soon, Charlie walked to the edge of the pool. Seeing him show up, Blaze didn't take him seriously at all.
Tengo permiso para usar la piscina. He pagado por eso. ¿Algún problema?
Tell me where to find Horst Schiller.
Realizing the danger, Blaze turned and swam desperately toward the other end of the pool, but it was already too late. The next second, the entire glass pool shattered. Blaze fell from the sky, along with the shattered pool. The massive crash immediately alerted Henderson. He quickly ran after Charlie.
Stop!
But suddenly, an unidentified agent blocked his path. The two of them started fighting in the hotel laundry room. But the agent was clearly no match for Henderson. Charlie and Henderson briefly locked eyes. At that moment, the former instructor went silent. In the end, he slowly lowered his gun and silently let Charlie go. After completing the mission, Charlie and Anna returned to Istanbul. Just as they were about to rest, the poultry outside used as an alarm started screeching loudly. They immediately realized someone had broken in. Even though Anna had already planned the escape route, she was hit by a stray bullet during the retreat and died on the spot. After losing Anna, Charlie had no choice but to continue alone. Using Blaze's phone, he posed as an arms dealer and contacted the third criminal, Lawrence. Soon, the two agreed to meet at an abandoned warehouse for the deal. Charlie waited inside the warehouse ahead of time. Greedy Lawrence thought the box contained the agreed deposit, but the moment he opened it, he realized it was actually a bomb. Just then, Charlie calmly stepped out from behind him.
Tell me what I need to know, and I'll deactivate the device.
All right, okay, come on.
Under pressure, Lawrence finally revealed the mastermind's location. The real mastermind was a man named Schiller. He had been hiding on a cargo ship sailing in Russian waters. The only way to reach him was through a middleman at a port in the Baltic Sea. After getting the information, Charlie didn't spare Lawrence. He caught the phone Lawrence tossed to him and pressed the detonation button.
Wait!
The next day, he arrived at the port Lawrence mentioned. Because of the language barrier, Charlie quickly drew attention. He stood at the harbor, quietly watching the crews on every ship. At that moment, a hitman suddenly appeared behind him. Before Charlie could react, he was struck hard on the back of the head. Charlie instantly lost consciousness. When he woke up, he realized he had been taken onto a cargo ship heading for international waters. Two large men immediately restrained him. Then they transferred him to a much more luxurious yacht. When Charlie finally came to his senses, he was standing in front of the real mastermind, Schiller. What surprised Schiller was that Charlie had come alone.
Who's coming after me?
Me, I'm coming after you.
But what surprised Charlie even more was that Schiller didn't order his men to kill him. Instead, he had someone bring a pistol and handed it to Charlie. He even knelt down, inviting Charlie to take his revenge. But standing in front of his enemy, Charlie still couldn't pull the trigger. Holding the gun, he told Schiller what he really wanted.
There it is. That's what I came here for. To make you feel what she felt in that moment.
After saying that, Charlie slowly lowered the gun. But that didn't mean he planned to let Schiller go. The next second, the yacht was surrounded by warships and helicopters. It turned out this was all part of Charlie's plan. He had deliberately let himself get captured to board the yacht as bait. Before that, he had already sent the location data to the Finnish Navy and Interpol. Before arriving at the port, he had also embedded a tracker in his watch.
I just needed you to talk as long as it took to get us here.
Only then did Schiller realize he had fallen into Charlie's carefully planned trap. Soon, Interpol agents stormed the yacht. Schiller and all his men were arrested. Now he would face justice. A few days later, the CIA headquarters held a press conference. Director Mitchell publicly announced that Deputy Director Moore had seriously violated international law. Moore would face a military tribunal. After everything was over, Charlie went to the cemetery. He sat by Sarah's gravestone, quietly keeping her company all afternoon. At dusk, Charlie returned to his car, but suddenly the car door opened. Henderson sat down inside.
And you keep on surprising me, Charlie.
Everything you taught me.
No. What you've done, what you've become, can't teach that. Thank you. See you around, Charlie.